for a long time that he tried out for the Monkees, but I guess that's a myth. I guess a long time ago, Mickey Dolenz made a joke that said everybody tried out for the Monkees, and even Charles Manson or something like that. He made it some joke, and it was supposedly it was total bullshit. Manson never had tried out for the Monkees. It turned into a rumor that Manson could have been one of the Monkees.
Yeah,
I think Stephen Stills, I believe, legitimately did try out for from Crosby, Stills, and Nash
and Young. Do we count Young and Crosby, Stills, and Nash? Or
you know what? That's a weird. Next, we're gonna do a whole show on that. We're gonna do a whole show on Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Sometimes Young.
Sometimes young.
But the Manson family was always interesting. I mean, Manson, he was charismatic. He was this folk singer. He basically took over Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys' house for a while. And him and Dennis Wilson would just jam and get high, and the women of the Manson family would serve them and do other things, and then Wilson finally kicked them out. They relocated to the Spawn Ranch in Death Valley, where the owner of the ranch was this nearly blind 80-year-old guy, and the reason he allowed them to stay there is Manson would have some of his female followers most legendary, Squeaky Frome, give him a little bit of the how's your father, and wink wink nudge nudge, little top, that's a wink to a blind bat, eh? Wink wink nudge nudge. And he would allow them to stay there, and this family grew. It was a lot of young impressionable women. There was a few guys in there, and they committed some of the most prolific murders of that time frame, the Tate and LaBianca murder. Sharon Tate, of course, the wife, actress, but also the wife of Roman Polanski, was murdered. I think one of the heirs to the Folgers...
she was pregnant too.
Yeah, she was pregnant. I think one of the heirs to the Folgers coffee empire was murdered at the same time.
Yeah, those are some high-profile people to murder too. It seems like they got off pretty easy for you would have thought that they would have got run through the system hardcore, but it seemed like they all got off pretty easy for what they did.
But the fact that this is how indoctrinated they were, when Charles Manson carved a swastika into his forehead, the creepy thing is that his followers also carved swastikas into their foreheads.
All the women shaved their heads too, didn't they?
Shaved their heads. And then, later on down the road, after they had all been the ones that were involved with the murders, they got their life sentences and everything. Then later on down the road, old Squeaky Frome decides she gonna try to assassinate Gerald Ford.
She tried to kill Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin too. Or she tried to get into his house or something. I don't remember what it was. She tried to get to him somehow. I don't remember if she was going to kill him or not.
Hi, Homer. I'm former President Gerald Ford. Tell me, Homer, do you like football? Do you like nachos? Well, why don't you come over and we'll watch the game and eat nachos, and then we'll have some beer. Woohoo! That is one of my favorite Simpsons episodes because they don't get along with George Bush Sr. But as soon as Gerald Ford shows up, him and Homer are like best friends. I love that.
I like the one where the aliens, the Halloween one, when the aliens are Bob Dole and Bill Clinton, and they're walking around holding hands. They're running against each other in the election, but they're holding hands, walking around.
We could vote for a third party. Oh, sure, throw your votes away. But cults are freaky, man. And then you get into the movie aspect of cults. Cults and movies.
And we were talking earlier off the air that there's movies now that are based on different cults that really happened or could conceivably happen. I think there's one on that Mexican cult that beheaded those people down on the border.
There's
a movie about that.
What's the one? I think it's called The Sacrament, and that's about the Jim. It's basically the Jim Jones.
Yeah, there's either based on or biographical about some of that shit.
But then you get into the other cults. Chief and I were approached by some really nice men. I put it up on Twitter. Some really nice men approached me and Chief and want us to join their club. We just have to get this insignia on our forearms. It kind of looks like a sideways witch's hat.
Do we get invincible murder stalking powers if we do that?
You do, but you have to wear a William Shatner mask.
I do that anyway, so sold.
The Cult of the Thorn, which came about. Was it Halloween? It was Halloween 5 that.
I think 4 or 5. I think 4 and 5. I think have to do with it.
5 and 6, because 6 was the Curse of Michael Myers.
Okay, well, 4. I think 4 leads into it. I think the one guy appears at the end of the 4th one.
And then it really the Return of Michael Myers was 4. Then you had what? Then you had the 4th one was with his niece Jamie, and then the 6th one had a lot with the Cult of the Thorn.
Such a terrible. Isn't it the girl that's in the Rob Zombie one later? The niece, was she the one that was in the one later on?
The girl who played it, or
the one that she had a different role in the Rob Zombie remake. I thought she was the one that was grown up from the original series.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But so you have Halloween, which was one of the first true slasher movies, or one of the most prolific horror films of its time. Halloween, Halloween 2. Then you get Season of the Witch, which if it wasn't labeled Halloween, it probably would have been okay.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about that before, and the idea was that they were, after Michael Myers, they were going to do anthology installments of Halloween, and the first one was about the masks, and then there would have been another one that would have been about something else. But it didn't get off the ground because nobody liked the mask one.
We needed Michael. We needed Michael. So Michael comes back, and then it kind of turns to Michael's not just a psychotic killer. He's manipulated by this Cult of the Thorn.
That makes no sense.
That makes absolutely no sense.
There's no reason why they would want him to do what he does.
There's no reason, but Laurie Strode dies. Her daughter Jamie is Michael's niece, and you find out in the 6th movie, The Curse of Michael Myers, that they wanted Jamie to give birth to the spawn of Michael Myers, which basically means Michael had to impregnate his niece to give birth to this child, which ends up being saved by Ant-Man.
That's right. Paul Rudd's in the
Paul Stephen Rudd. Paul Stephen Rudd. If you go through the theatrical version, the first movie Paul Rudd ever did, it says starring and introducing Paul Stephen Rudd. If you watch the theatrical version, now if you watch the producer's cut, which actually is a better film, if you watch the producer's cut, a lot more Donald Pleasance, and you always need more Donald Pleasance. It's just Paul Rudd. But it takes this great idea that Michael's just this psychotic killer who's killing his family to this Cult of the Thorn.
Yeah, hey, I'm up on my computer now. If you want to pause and
sure, we can do that.
Send me a deal. If you want, or we can continue like this. If it's fine with you.
This is fine. This sounds good. Let's just stay
all
rolling.
Right. We'll just keep rolling. All right.
So that's hilarious to me, but going back to what we were talking about earlier with the Tate murders, Roman Polanski, now he's a fucking dirtbag.
He probably always was. Just
always
the one he got caught up in the one case, as far as I know. But no doubt the guy's done other things similar. I mean,
he's a dirtbag. But
you can just one day do that. No, I'll never do that again.
No. I learned my lesson. No, I only tried meth once. So one of his most prolific films, of course, is Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, which is a good movie. I like that. It's a classic cult movie.
Love the movies, hate the person. Okay?
Yeah, well, you could separate art from the artist,
yes,
I think.
Separate it. But that movie had a cult in it where their whole thing was to get this woman impregnated by Satan himself and give birth to the Antichrist. And that's a lot of cults. That's a lot of themes in cult movies is we want the birth of the Antichrist, so we're going to let this woman get knocked up by the devil.
Yeah.
Oh, Auntie. What are you doing, Auntie? Ah! You walk on water, I sink in the water. Yeah!
Basically, that's the whole gist of the whole Paranormal Activity series, too. Yeah. I mean, there's a witch's cult that's trying to birth a baby with a demon soul or something.
It's a lot of those. It's either,
there's like 5 of them.
You got the satanic cults. You've got so you got satanic cults. You have those cults like the Wicker Man, which are they sacrifice people for better harvests.
Yeah, like a kind of a dark Wiccan witches kind of nature cult.
How did they get burned? How did they get burned? Roland!
You can't beat Nicolas Cage. You know that movie is so hard to find. I was trying. I thought it was
the Cage one, or the Cage one, or the original Christopher Lee?
Yeah, the Cage one. The original one's on Amazon Prime, I think. But I looked up the Cage one. They've got a picture of it, but it's not available. And it's like, man, I've been trying because there's actually if anybody's interested out there on YouTube, there's a Djibouti dub of that movie, I believe.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get the movie so I can watch it with the dub track, but I can't find the movie anywhere.
The Nostalgia Critic also did a review of that. With one of my favorite ones is when in that film when Nicolas Cage is with the parade as they're going to the Wicker Man and he's dressed as the bear and he just skips up to the lady and punches her right in the face, and the Nostalgia Critic's like, "This is the way the teddy bears have their picnic, bitch."
Well, I mean, I've seen a couple other reviews of it, and I've never actually even watched the whole Nicolas Cage one. I've seen the original one.
Yeah, the original one's classic.
Yeah, I've seen that like years and years. I saw that on like VHS from the video store years ago. A
great showing by Christopher Lee in that movie. Such a great role that he played in that one as Lord Summerisle.
It's a pretty it's kind of a cult in a different sense, like in the other sense of the word. It's kind of a cult horror movie from back in the day. The Nicolas Cage one, from what I hear, is not even really that far off from the original. It's just caging it up.
It's Cage being. It's not that different, but it's Cage being Cage. And any movie with Cage, when he cages it up, I mean, if they would have let Cage it up in Fast Times at Ridgemont High for like the 3 seconds he was on screen, like give the crazy Cage eyes or something, that would have been.
You know what? I think he would have done as good a job as Sean Penn at Spicoli if they would have gave it to him. If they would have gave him Spicoli, he would have done it a little different, but it would have been just as funny.
Yeah, good. Hey, way to go, Hamilton. Yeah, my head's on fire. How did it get burned?
He actually probably would have been a little more like just a laid-back version version of Jeff Spicoli. That would have been kind of. I don't know that he ever auditioned for that part, but I think Cage could have slid into that role and done it, I think.
He could have. Of course, we all know the greatest scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool. Yeah, Hamilton.
Everybody's number one.
The greatest Judge Reinhold movie of all time.
Yeah. Well, and then he went on to do Beverly Hills Cop's pretty good.
Yeah.
But then he went on to do some like family type movies.
Yeah, but everything's better with Judge Reinhold. We love Judge Reinhold. But yeah, that's a different type of. Like I said, that's more like the harvest type. You know, they just want a better harvest, so they're like this cult that sacrifices. You know,
like druid sacrifice kind of shit.
Yeah, you know, so I mean, there's different types. Now, the creepiest, in my opinion, cults are always the children cults, like Village of the Damned, or of course the Corn.
I think the ones that scare me are like the ones in real life, like that Santeria cult down on the border of Mexico that was like kidnapping college students and beheading them and shit.
Yeah,
like that kind of shit, or like the satanic cults kind of spook me because they really are satanic cults. I mean, there's a lot of like out and proud Satanists that have their own little groups and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, there have been some weird satanic cults before, and you just think when you see a movie like that, you just think I don't care if Satan is real. If it's bad if these people believe it.
Yeah,
that makes them scary. It's not the thing that they worship that scares me about cults. It's the people that believe in it that it really exists is what scares me about cults.
Yeah. I mean,
their belief is terrifying. I mean, it goes beyond rational thought, and there's nothing you can do about it, and they're just zealots, and it's scary.
I mean, it's almost like a hive mind, almost in a way. You got the one guy at the top of the hive, the queen bee.
Oh, so then we get into like the Moonies. I mean, and a lot of those were just money funneling operations. Like they would just have kids out begging in the street.
Yeah, the Moonies, man.
Well, I mean, that's like your